This is class number 3 in the class on positive change, self-directed positive change.
Self-directed positive change using the change wheel or the conversion wheel.
Okay, and today we're going to be talking about spokes 2 and 3 of the change wheel.
So spoke 2 is the one that I think a lot of people want to start with, but it's actually comes after spoke 1, and that is when am I going to change?
And just like with spoke 1, you tell everyone the answers. You always have this is the correct answer.
Yeah,
you are not a non-directive mental health professional.
Oh no! There is a correct answer to all of these, and you just have to accept that because this is the way change works. It's not even. I mean, it's just a natural law we have to follow. So, the answer to the question when am I going to change is as soon as possible, right? That's our goal. We don't want to procrastinate, but we can't always begin our change immediately. So we want to say immediately, but that's not always possible because sometimes we have to have things prepared and ready for that change, and so we have to take some time to get ready for it.
So as soon as possible is not the same thing as now, but it's also not the same thing as tomorrow.
Right. As soon as possible, and as soon as possible, just like in question 1, as soon as possible has 2 parts to it, right? Because there has to be a beginning time, and there has to be an end time. When am I going to be the person that I want to be? I'm not right now. So the start time is can be immediately if you're ready, but oftentimes we have to put things together and get things prepared, and you want to go through the whole change wheel and have your change wheel built and ready to go. So usually it's going to be 1 to 2 weeks before you're really ready to start making the change that you want to make. And the reason you don't want to start early is this, because you don't want to start doing something and find that it actually isn't helping you with this particular change.
It's kind of the same reason that we said don't rush the hub. Don't say, oh, I know exactly what I want my hub to be, and just write it in immediately. Take the process to carefully consider, to list out possible changes, to get feedback from others, and then to prioritize, and then to pray. And all of those steps help keep you from jumping the gun, as they say, from starting before you're actually prepared to start,
and having an incorrect focus. It's really easy to get our change out of focus, and so that's why this change wheel is so important, because it's going to keep you focused where you need to be focused. And if you go too quickly, then you start out of focus, and it's much harder to get back in focus than if you start in focus. And so
the things you need to set up to be ready for your change will be specific to the specific change you're going to make. So in this case, you can't give people a specific answer of what you have to have set up in order to start.
Well, the specific answers are the thing. You'll learn through the change wheel what you need to do.
That's what I was going to say.
And
is
so
that your one specific answer is complete your change wheel worksheet.
Right.
Complete your change wheel plan.
And what we're gonna try to do, and I haven't done this yet, but I'm gonna try to do this. We're gonna try to get a change wheel worksheet onto our website, so you will be able to go
interactive one,
and actually fill out the worksheet and then print it out, and it'll help you go through each of the steps all the way around, so that when you're done, you've got a whole change wheel built that you can then use visually to kind of remind you of the steps that you need to go through.
But you're going to have one that is attached to the course notes of this, yes?
Well,
maybe not an interactive one.
Yeah,
but at least the basic file.
Yeah, we're gonna have the diagram that we have. That is the change wheel. It has all the spokes and all that. That's going to be attached to this. But we're going to try to have an actual interactive worksheet that you can go through and fill out, so you can actually do your change wheel in a more formal way, because the change wheel really ought to be done formally. It's not an informal tool. So
that's why in the last lesson we were talking about write your things down. Write it down carefully. The writing process is actually a really important part of this procedure. There's a lot of evidence that this kind of narrative where you are narrating on paper about yourself, about your changes, about where you are, about where you want to be, about the steps you're going to take to get there, is foundational in making you actually be able to do those changes.
Right.
So don't skip the writing part.
No. In fact, you're going to find that this change wheel has some very writing intensive parts of it too. I mean, what we've talked about already has some writing, but there's going to be even more writing and a more writing intense section as we go. So writing is key to what we're doing. So
Okay, so the as soon as possible, the first part of that is
when do I start?
Is after I have done all of my change wheel
And I've got
planning.
Everything, right, and I've got everything in place. And think about it this way. God, when he created the world, he first created everything spiritually and then physically. He had a plan. He planned it out, and then he carried it out.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing here. You're creating the change you want to make first by planning it out. You have that spiritual aspect. Then you will carry it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's when do I start? The second part of it is obviously when am I done? When am I finished? And you ought to give yourself a time frame of when you think, how long you think it will take you to make this change. Now remember, we're making these are character changes. So please don't write down in 2 weeks, because it's not going to happen, and it's going to be frustrating. So you want to consider, a couple of things to really consider in answering the second part of this question is, what kind of support do I have? Do I have a lot of people around me who are going to support me in making this change? If I do, it'll probably take me a little bit less time than if I'm trying to make this change. I've worked with people who are trying to quit using something like marijuana, and their entire family uses marijuana, and they bake marijuana into their brownies that they bring to their family events. And that person's probably going to have to take a little bit longer to make this change than the person who maybe got caught up in marijuana, but their family has never used and has always hoped that they wouldn't. And now they've decided, okay, I'm gonna try to stop, and I'm gonna go back home, and I'm gonna get this support. That person probably is gonna make that change sooner because they've got a much stronger support system around them.
Okay, but you've talked about how context changes are 6-month to 24-month changes.
Correct.
So your time frame should be somewhere in that, and it should only
yes.
be on the 6-month end if you have lots of support, and if the change you're making is not I don't know what I have to say, but it's not just support isn't the only difference in
No.
whether it's a small some changes are going to transform more parts of you than others.
Right.
So if the change you're trying to make is the example that we used earlier about becoming regular and dutiful in your scripture study,
Mm-hmm.
that sounds like a 6-month change to me.
That's
Something that's transforming, say, your overall health and going from a sedentary, unhealthy in person to a really healthy person. That's a long-term
It's a long
plan.
term. I would say if scripture study, diligent scripture study, I want to be a diligent scripture studier. I would say anywhere from 6 months to a year, depending on your situation, your condition, and the support system that you have. If you're trying to change, like you say, a whole lifestyle, right? Then
It's definitely going to be.
then you're going to see
2 years
more
and
more
plus.
like a year to 2 years to make that change. So, and we'll go back to the example that I had of being a
So why is it important to have an end date then if you don't really know how long it's going to take? Is it just the part that lets you know, look, this is a long-term commitment. This is not something I'm going to get done quickly.
Well, it's that in part, but in part it's also, remember, you're trying to be something. You want to be that. if you don't give yourself a goal of when you're going to be that, then it's awful easy to procrastinate. To say, well, I am going to be that, but tomorrow, someday I'll be that. But if you're saying I'm going to be that in 9 months, well, then you're kind of lighting a fire under yourself. Hey, I've got to get going if I'm going to get there in 9 months. And so what's really neat is that you, anyways. So go back to my example of I want to be a kind father. I gave myself 9 months because I felt like I had really good support. My kids wanted me to be a kind father. They were on board with it. You were on board with it. You wanted me to be able to make some changes, and you were happy to help me with that. I knew that I had support around me. I had priesthood leaders who were aware of what I was trying to do, and they were on board with it. So it was, I had a lot of support. Now, not only did I have a lot of support, but like you said, I wasn't coming from a background of abuse. I wasn't a mean father. I just wasn't as kind as I wanted to be. So I didn't have, I wasn't spanning a huge, gulf there.
And not saying that somebody couldn't change from being abusive.
They can, and they do all the time, but it takes longer if your character trait is to be aggressive and mean. I've never been a real aggressive person. I've never been a real mean person. So, except maybe as a teenager, but we won't get into that. As an adult, I've never been an aggressive or a mean person. So I didn't have that far to go. And I felt like 9 months was a sufficient amount of time for me to make that change.
Do you think people usually underestimate how much time it's going to take them to make their change?
I think that one of two things happens. Either they underestimate or they simply don't believe that they will ever make the change. Now, nobody that I know overestimates the time but gives themselves a time that they think they can get it done. I don't think that ever happens. If they don't think they're going to get it done in a certain time, they just don't think they're going to get it done. So yes, when people make the change wheel, they're more often than not going to minimize the amount of time that they need rather than maximize.
Is that a problem?
No, because the thing about about the change wheel, just like all the tools that I like to teach, is there's flexibility built in. So, and we'll get to that a little bit more when we get to the rim, but the idea is that you're going to be going through this change wheel every now and then, and you're going to have to be looking and modifying different parts of the change wheel as you find, hey, this part's not working as well as I thought. And you may get to this part and be like, I thought I would be able to change this in 6 months, but it's been 3 months and I'm not even close, so maybe I need to extend it to a year.
So don't get hung up at this stage of planning and think, oh, I don't even know how long this change is going to take, so I can't go on to the next step because I don't know what my end date should be.
Right.
Set something between 6 months
and 2
years and 24 months.
Yep.
And
know that you're going to get to come back to it again over
and adjust
and
it as you
over
need to
and
go.
make adjustments as needed. So
let's go on to the
our next, so once you've identified the time frame that you're going to give yourself, that you're working towards, start time, end time, then you're going to move to the third spoke. And the third spoke is you have to ask yourself, what do I need? So we had why do I want to change? When do I want to change? And now we're saying, what do I need in order to make this change? And this is
where your writing comes in.
And this is where people they want to list off a bunch of things that they need. And really there's only one thing that you need. And that is a self-inventory. And this the AA program, they use this, other programs use this. It's been it's been researched so many times. If you want to make change, you have to do a self-inventory. Now, I'm going to let you tell people what the two parts of a self-inventory are. Do you remember?
Putting pressure on me.
Yeah.
So the first part of a self-inventory is writing about the person that you are now.
Right.
You're going to write in as much detail as you can who you are in relationship to the hub that you're trying to change.
Right.
You can tell stories, like you could say, when you tell this story about wanting to change, you often tell a story about, isn't this where you tell the story about Elizabeth and making her
Oh,
cry
yeah.
when she, okay.
Yeah, when she wipes the butter on her Sunday. Well, and you were sick, and I was supposed to be taking. So I'm taking all the kids to state conference out in Joplin. It's about an hour away, and I'm trying to get all the kids ready for church, and of course this is my own stupidity, but I'm making toast for these kids to eat for breakfast.
Well, toast seems like a reasonable thing to make, but you had the little baby toddler dressed up in her nice Sunday dress, and her hands were all greasy, and she wiped her greasy hands on her
dress.
clean dress.
Oh my goodness, that was, I was so mad, and oh yeah, I just, but here's the nice thing about that, is that was the end of my change, right? That was when I was patient with her.
Oh, okay, so that's not a story here.
I wouldn't have been patient. That's for the
Never
next
mind.
the next part. No, but
I shouldn't have had you telling this story so far. But let's say that in the
No, but
story, let's just say for the point of this, we're
Right,
going to
so
make up
this is-
that this happened, and then you yelled at her, and then she cried, and it was
Right.
one of the things that made you realize you shouldn't do it. You might write that
Right.
story down, things that are kind of your core memories around who you are now that you're wanting to change. So it can be sort of listy. It can be, but I actually think
No.
It shouldn't be listy.
It can't be listy.
Sorry.
It can't be listy. You could start with an outline, make an outline if you need to. That's fine, but it actually should be.
This is more like a personal essay or a personal narrative about
Right.
the person you are right now.
About who you are right now.
It should be as
in relation
detailed
to
and
your hub.
specific as possible.
And it should be a minimum, and people don't like it when I say this. It should be a minimum of a page. If you're writing less than a page, you have not been honest enough with yourself about who you are in relation to your hub.
And when people really use this tool well and make really positive change, you're more looking like 3 to 5 pages or
Yeah,
more.
most people will write you want to write a really good. Now, here's the thing: you can write it as a narrative, you can write it as an essay, or you can write it as a journal entry. Any of those 3 formats are perfectly fine. But it needs to be a minimum of a page, and it needs to be about the hub, right? So you're not just saying I'm not going to say when I play basketball I yell at my teammates, because that's not what my hub is about. My hub is about being a kind father. So it needs to be in relation to my children and maybe my wife, because how I interact with her is going to affect my children a lot. And so I want to write who I am, how I interact currently with my wife and with my children.
Yeah. It should be as honest as possible. It shouldn't underplay or exaggerate your faults. And it should be as specific as possible.
Right. It would be better to exaggerate your faults than to minimize them.
Yeah, okay.
If
That's
you're-
definitely true.
This is the part that hurts, and it should hurt. Now,
I don't know how easily you cry, but if I don't cry when I'm writing this part, I know I haven't quite got the change that I'm needing to make.
mhm.
So if you're not really a crier, that might not be a good sign for you, but
Right.
yeah.
But the point is, though, it hurts, and it should hurt, because you're looking at yourself and you're recognizing this is a part of me that is hurting the people around me. This is the part of me that's hurting God. Even if it's not hurting the people around you, it may be something that nobody else knows about, but you want to change it, but we know that God is involved.
In terms of steps for repentance, this is kind of the remorse level.
Right.
The remorse step.
Right. You should be feeling the remorse for the way that we're behaving, for what we're doing, and we want to change that.
The second part of the self-inventory is writing about who you want to be.
Right. And this, again, it's going to be the same. It's not the same, but it's going to be a minimum of a page. But what you want to do here is a little different, because you want to find or identify 2 to 5 people that you know, either actual people, they can be characters from books or movies, but you want to identify 2 to 5 people who have the character trait that you want to develop. So I want it to be
So we're finding role models.
Right, we're finding role models in this specific area of our hub, right? So for myself, when I said I want to be a kind father, the 2 people I identified were my own father and my father-in-law. Both of whom are very kind and in very different ways. And some of the examples that you've told me about your dad growing up and how he was willing to listen to you even when you had crazy ideas.
This is true.
Those that became really important to me, that I wanted to be able to do that for my children. I wanted to have the patience to sit and hear their thoughts and ideas. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite moments as a father was my oldest daughter, used to tell me her stories. She is very creative and has a lot of story ideas, and she would tell me her stories. And one day I was listening to a song, and we were in the kitchen, and she was there with me, and I said, "Oh, you know what? I think this is the theme song for that story you've been telling me."
We do a lot of theme songs in our family.
And she listened to the song, and she was like, "This is the theme song for my story." And then she said, "Dad, you've been listening to me." And I thought, yes, I have. And she then proceeded to tell me, she says, I just thought you were like everybody else, that you pretended to listen. And I thought that was just nice of you. And she, but you actually listened, because you couldn't have picked this as a theme song for my story if you didn't actually know the story. And I said,
I think I pretended to listen to your stories.
And I said, no, I've been listening. When
you know, I have 8 children. I homeschool, so they're home all day. They talk to me a lot.
Yes.
There are sometimes I pretend to listen to them.
Oh, sure. No, but to me that was a moment, you know, of, okay, I have become the person I wanted to become, because my daughter now can tell her husband, my dad listened to me when I had things to say. That was what your dad did for you, I wanted to do for my children. And when my daughter recognized openly that I was doing that, that was a confirmation to me that change had happened. And it was very rewarding, that moment. So identifying 2 to 5 role models that within that change wheel, right, within your hub, that they have the characteristics that you want to have. And then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to write about them. You're going to write, okay, this is who I want to be, and this is why, because they do this and this and this and this, which are the things that I want to be able to do. And you're going to write it up in the same format, either an essay or a narrative or a journal entry. And that's what you need. That's all you need. Now, I say that, and again, it's semantics. What I'm saying is, you don't need to make a big list of things that, okay, I need this, and I need this, and I need this, and I need this to make this change. You need to make that self-inventory. And once you've made that, you're ready to move to the next step, which we'll talk about next time.
That's true.
So,
okay.
So an assignment, though, for this week is not, I'm going to give you a smaller assignment than this whole thing, because you'll want to take some time to go through this class and develop your change wheel. But what I do want you to do is think about a character trait that you would like to have. And then I want you to identify 2 or 3 people, whether they're people or whether they're characters, that have those character traits, that character trait. And I want you to list, what did they do to demonstrate, or in other words, what are the fruits of that character trait?
And that's really good assignment, because at this point, depending on how fast you're watching these classes, you may very likely still be working on nailing down your hub. And this is useful not only for this self-inventory step if you already know your hub, but it's useful for you in preparing a hub. So identifying character traits and people who have that character trait might help you in your quest for the perfect hub.
Right. Absolutely.
All right, we will see you for the next class.